Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Good. How are you?
We're great, and obviously a big offseason and a big couple of days here in Tennessee as they make it official yesterday, hiring Rand Carthon as general manager. What made him an attractive candidate for this job? What's the general sense around the league about his readiness for this job?
Yeah, well, certainly Rand Carthon has a really good resume. He's been a rising scout and personnel guy for a while for three different franchises, has done well and helped build winners in Atlanta. With the Rams, with the GM Les Snead, and then with the 49ers, really having one of the best rosters in the entire NFL. He's got playing pedigree from University of Florida and the Colts in the NFL. He's relatable. He's collaborative. And so, actually, I went to school with Rand Carthon at the University of Florida, so I've known him for a long time. He's a very sharp guy.
And Jeremy, do you get the sense that he fits with Mike Vrabel's vocabulary, his experience? I know that the general thought is that Amy Adams Strunk really wanted this to be a close collaboration between the head coach and the GM. How do you feel like his personality fits with Mike Vrabel's?
Well, I do think it's I got the sense that Vrabel wants a tried and true football guy, right? He doesn't want somebody who's a politician in the role or looking to climb the ladder. He just wants somebody who's going to be immersed in that world. And I really think it came down to just personnel, who's going to dig in and find them the best roster that's on an upward trajectory and fit those pieces and just be able to work closely with Mike and Rand check those boxes. That's why I think it made sense, for a guy with a football background and has been a part of some big-time rosters in several spots. I think that weighed a lot.
Jeremy, you just had to mention the Florida Gator tie right there, huh? Just couldn't let that one go, man. With that being said, though, anybody that was looking at this job, as far as the Tennessee Titans go, very competitive team, had a bad skid towards the latter part of it. Do you think this was a challenge that could have gone to almost just anybody taking on this role, or it had to be somebody with, Rand Carthon's background of building up rosters?
Well, I think that was part of it. It sounds like this search moved really fast. I know Ian Cunningham, the assistant general manager of the Bears, was heavily in the mix as a finalist. But it just sounds like when Rand got in the building, everybody hit it off. They wanted to get it done quickly. So that kind of threw the process off a little bit. I was a little surprised with Ryan Cowden that he didn't get it just because, I was there in Jacksonville for the game a couple weeks ago. And I was around and on the sidelines, and it just felt like he was the general manager. You know what I mean? It felt like he was going to get that role, and he's very well respected. So, he'll be in the mix in the future on these kind of jobs. I don't know if he's staying in Tennessee or not, but I would say it was a mild surprise that he didn't get it. But certainly, it makes a ton of sense with Rand and his qualifications.
When it comes down to the front office guys that get these jobs or not, it was very interesting. You say you were shocked you didn't get it. What, to your understanding, makes it hard for a guy to get a job or to not get a job? Or to get it, I mean.
Well, you got to knock out the interview, certainly. I do think with a lot of these, teams mostly know what they want as they go into it. You have, like these head coaching jobs, you got teams requesting 10 to 12 people. I think when they do that, they kind of know who they want. So, but you want to create a fair process where your mind can be changed, or you can be persuaded based on, the presentation that somebody gives and, the energy they have. And certainly that all plays into it. And, Rand Carthon's guy has been in interviews before. He's been groomed for this kind of job. He understands the nuances of it, the answers to the test, so to speak, in these interviews. And so, that can go a long way, certainly.
Yeah.
Jeremy, when it comes to the next task for the Titans, it's finding an offensive coordinator. We've heard them obviously request some interviews. What are you hearing on that front? And do you just keep it in-house possibly with a guy like Tim Kelly?
Yeah, so certainly Tim Kelly's a strong candidate. I've gotten some sense that Matt Nagy with the Chiefs, I don't know if they've talked yet. I do expect him to be a prime candidate just over the next week or so. Mike Vrabel seems intrigued by the Chiefs' offense. either he's just trying to get ideas from the Chiefs by talking to Chiefs people, or he actually wants to implement some of the system. It's one of the two. Eric Bieniemy is up for it, but he's at least been requested. My understanding is he's focused more on the head coach opportunities first. But maybe if there's a chance to run an offense on his own, with an established organization. So there'll be some other names in the mix. And you know what? I got my master list here.
I'm sure.
That's it. Charles London, I
Yes.
expect. And that's really the four right now. I wondered about Bill O'Brien a little bit because he is close to Mike Vrabel. Everybody I talk to expects him to go to the Patriots. So I don't think that's a done deal, but it sounds like that's the way it's trending.
Okay. A part of that Titans offense, clearly Ryan Tannehill, and this is a question, though. They don't know for sure what's going to happen at that quarterback position. The thought is that you bring back Ryan Tannehill for at least another year, but what direction you see them going, or what maybe is the right direction for this franchise at this point?
Well, the right direction is just to get some upgrades, at several spots, probably quarterback, Certainly they feel like if Ryan Tannehill comes back healthy, they can win with him. They're comfortable with him. There's a lot of familiarity there. The contract is now easy to get out of. For a few years it wasn't, but 2023, you could take on a dead salary cap hit of $18.8 million. Which isn't fun, but you would get $36 million of cap hit off the books. So you would gain a lot of cap space by moving on. I'm not convinced that they want to do that yet, but I do think they'll look at their options, certainly. There are more free agent quarterbacks available this year than there had been in the past. More guys who can really play. And then, of course, you have the draft. And so, and you can bring Josh Dobbs back as maybe a number 2/3. So they're going to have some options. But I think overall, I don't get the sense that quarterback takes a huge premium right now, because I think their goal is just to be able to get a little faster. Mm-hmm. The offense had gotten a little stagnant with just not enough explosion, especially on the outside. And they got to decide on Derrick Henry what to do. His contract's sort of set up for them to walk away if they want. So it feels like there's going to be a stamp put on this roster that will look different than Tennessee fans are used to 6 to 8 months from now.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. 2 openings in the AFC South, Jeremy. We'll start in Houston. With the draft capital that the Texans have, do they have the best ability at this point to lure Sean Payton back into the coaching ranks and make him their head coach?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Which team is this again?
Houston with Sean Payton.
I don't know. I think it's going to be tough in that you have Denver and Carolina pretty heavily in the mix right now. There's, definitely some buzz about both those teams, at least giving him their fastball in the interview setting, where I'm not sure how far Houston really went with that, but he's intrigued. I do believe he's intrigued by Houston. Arizona is the one team that I don't get the sense is really in the mix. I don't think he's going to interview there. But Houston has a lot to offer. I think it's his best option, to be honest. If you can deal with the ownership component, if you're comfortable with that in Cal McNair. He might not be. Where Denver is more stable in that regard. Carolina probably more stable in that regard. So it's just ownership's going to be big for him. That's why I think Denver looms large here. But, with the Texans, they got 2 top 12 picks, 11 picks overall, $40 million in cap space. It's attractive. They got some young pieces that I think are pretty good. So I think they'll think long and hard about Houston.
And on the other side of things with Indianapolis and the search they have there and looking for a replacement for Frank Reich, seems like Indianapolis and Jim Irsay casting a pretty wide net and looking a lot of different options. Where do you think the strongest candidate is for Indianapolis? Where do you think Jim Irsay goes at this point in the search?
Well, that one I would say has been more all over the map than anybody's. They're talking to a lot of people. I think I have at least 10 people on my list. And they still have to talk to some folks this weekend. They're talking to Mike Kafka and Wink Martindale, the Giants coordinators, on Sunday, and then they'll probably whittle down the rest of the interviews after that. So it's going to be kind of a long slog. And, that one's been hard to figure out because of Jeff Saturday. There's mystery that sort of surrounds his candidacy. I do expect him to speak with them by the end of the week and do some sort of interview. I do believe he's still pretty firmly in the mix. But they have a lot of young candidates that they like as well. So it's pretty wide open. They value experience. That's why I think somebody like Raheem Morris, has a pretty good chance. Eric Bieniemy. I mean, they want somebody who's, not fairly new to the job, so to speak.
There's going to be a hot topic this offseason, man, as far as free agency goes. Raiders in a position to need a quarterback considering what's happening with Carr. Where does Tom Brady find himself in this mix? Is he legitimately going to consider playing again? Or are they going to make a push for him as far as that position goes too, Jeremy?
So which team would make a push? You're talking about
Raiders, Las Vegas, yes.
Raiders, yeah. So I do expect that. I get the sense the Raiders think that they're one of, say, 3 teams that would be in the mix for him. I still think Tampa would be one, and then there'd be a wild card or 2. And I don't get the sense that he's going to sit out. Last year there was a lot of speculation about him sitting. I know he's undecided, so you never really know, especially at his age. But most teams I talk to think he's going to play. So we'll see where that goes. And if I had to sort of forecast right now, I think Vegas makes the most sense. He's on the West Coast, which is close to his family and his parents. He's got an offense that he could seamlessly walk back into with Josh McDaniels. A lot of weapons. You're playing in a dome in warm weather.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good going on there that he would like.
For teams that are looking for their quarterback and trying to figure out what offensive coordinator / head coach is going to work for them, do you expect the NFL to kind of trend towards a pattern of being patient, kind of the way the Giants have been with Daniel Jones? Because it seemed like that's going to pay off for them.
Yeah, you're talking about the Giants potentially re-signing Daniel Jones? Yeah. So, yes, it's complicated for the Giants and the Seahawks with Geno Smith. You have players that performed at the right time and really came into their own, but then what's the money look like now? I don't get the sense Seattle's going to spend a huge number on Geno Smith. It would have to be a sweet spot. I get the same feeling with Daniel Jones, but you can't insult them either. You got to pay what's close to the market.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think they want to keep him. There's probably a sweet spot there somewhere in the $30+ million a year, but I just don't see them going over that for Daniel Jones. But they love what he's done, certainly. They've simplified things for him, and he's been able to take advantage and play to his strengths, so especially running the ball. So that's a marriage they want to keep going. It just depends on for how long and for what the money is.
Jeremy Fowler, ESPN.com, our guest here this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Jeremy, I know it's a crazy time going into the playoffs, and certainly lots to discuss. We appreciate the time, as always.
Hey, anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
There is Jeremy Fowler with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Lots of information there. We've got a couple minutes to react to before we go to break again, but specifically the comment about Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
Being an offensive coordinator candidate. And Kayla mentioned earlier on in the show that we had never really heard whether or not he had answered back to the Titans. And
Right.
that still appears to be the case. But it sounds like that might be the guy Mike Vrabel pushes for a little bit harder.